Apple is continuing slowing down their SSDs with the new M2 series of machines like we saw yesterday with the M2 Mac Mini and the 14-inch base MacBook Pro. Now we have the 16-inch one right here. We're gonna go ahead and open up and see if they're slowing down the SSDs on a $2,500 machine. This is the M1 Pro $2,500 model 16-inch, and as you guys can see, we have 4 memory chips right here for storage, plus an additional one on this side, even for the 512 gigabyte model. Now, let's go ahead and pop this one open, and I just wanna say that a lot of people complained when we complained about it on the M2 MacBook Pro and M2 MacBook Air. Those are $1,200 and $1,300 devices, and they said that's not really a pro machine, it's okay to slow down the system. And with that, we saw some pretty drastic differences where even the M1 version was faster than the M2 because of that. Now, let's see if we have that on this new one, and look at that, Vadim.
Oh no.
You guys can see, we literally have 2 storage chips here compared to 5. What? So if you said it's okay on a $1,200 machine being slower than a year and a half old $1,000 machine, well, this is $2,500, and I guess it's okay to give us half the SSD speed or close to that on a machine a year and a half, 2 years later. That costs $2,500, so that is a disappointment. Now, I also want to point out, just like with the 14-inch, we could see the difference in the cooler block, this heat spreader cover that goes to the heat pipes. You see with the M1 Pro on the 16-inch, it is much larger than the new M2 Pro version. And this little section right here is actually just a little cover for the metal underneath. The actual heat block is this, so it's about half the size. And in tomorrow's video, we'll see how that impacts performance and if we get any throttling. And now that we have them put together, we could get into the performance tests, and I'm gonna do a bunch of real-world tasks that regular people and professionals use to see if we get any slowdowns. Now, before I test out our SSD speed test, I have to let you guys know that we're doing a giveaway, both a 14-inch MacBook Pro and a Mac Mini, and all you have to do is be subscribed to the channel, enable notifications, and comment down below. And you can actually go back to our previous videos and watch those and comment, and up to February 1st for our upcoming videos to have more chances to win. So good luck to all of you guys. Now, let's go ahead and run this test. And as you guys could see, we even have a different name for the actual SSDs. All right, guys, wow, look at that. We have 6,887 compared to 3,462.
Oh my goodness.
That's twice as fast.
Wow. For
the old machine that came out a year and a half ago or so. That's a big difference. 16-inch, $2,500 machine. Now, on the write speed, it's not twice as fast, but we're getting closer to that as far as performance. And here is the full metrics, so you guys can see it side by side. But there's only one category that the new M2 Pro, it beats it out, and that is in large block random reads. Everything else is worse, and we're gonna see how that impacts the real world performance. And now let's do a file transfer test with our benchmark folder, which we're gonna use in tomorrow's video, putting these head to head and seeing how much faster or slower the new one is. I'm gonna grab my folder, drop it down, and start the timer. Now, this is a large folder, 222 gigabytes, with all of our files, and I will say that both these SSDs are fast. This one runs, you guys saw, it was like 3,300 or whatever. And this SSD, even though it is Thunderbolt, it runs at about 2,000. So we might not saturate the whole amount, but the way the SSDs work is you don't have the full portion being full speed. After you saturate enough of it, it will slow down because of SLC caching, so we'll see if that affects it. Right there, you guys saw, it actually just slowed down. Now it's at 854 megabytes a second, 780, even though the SSD itself can do about 2,000. Now, that is just because of the SLC cache that I talked about. And with this one being slower out of the get-go, it could slow down quite a bit more and then not refresh itself fast enough while it's moving those blocks. We're almost done here. We're recording going from 600 to about 700 megabytes a second at the end. And that took 3 minutes and 4 seconds. And now for the M2 Pro 16-inch, hit start. As you guys could see, we are transferring at 1.9 gigabytes a second. We hit 2 gigabytes a second there. And so far, I'm really surprised that it has not slowed down. It's running at that full speed. So I wonder, oh, I shouldn't have said that. It slowed down, it slowed down a lot. Okay, we hit 200 there, 100 there, oh my goodness.
What the heck?
It stayed full speed longer than this one, which is a good thing, a very good thing, but I thought it would not slow down. But now that it's slowing down, you guys could see we're running at 400, 300, we saw 200 and 100. That's very slow. And the way this works, it's almost like a highway system. We have 4 or 5 chips here compared to 2. So if you don't have that much traffic going across a 2-lane highway like the M2 Pro 16-inch, that could be fine, or a freeway. But when you have a lot of traffic going around, or applications you're using swap, you have a bunch of traffic, well, you're gonna have a traffic jam with 2 lanes compared to having 4 or 5 with the previous generation. We're almost done here. You guys are seeing we're running out 265 megabytes a second compared to 700. So bam, we are done. And even though at the start here, it ran at full speed for quite a bit longer than the previous one, once it slowed down, it slows down dramatically. And we have a time of 4 minutes for the M2 Pro MacBook. So even though the difference isn't as great as with the M2 MacBook Pros and MacBook Airs, because these SSDs are quite a bit faster than our external, we are still noticing about 25% difference in performance. Now, before we get into the real world productivity test, I've got to talk about the best MagSafe iPhone case I have ever seen, the Magic Stand case from our partner CaseQ. Not only is it surprisingly slim and durable, but it comes with a very strong 48 magnet MagSafe ring that actually doubles as a stand. Just pull out the ring to use as a finger grip or as a stand for watching videos at any angle between 40 and 120 degrees. And the best part is that it folds back completely flush with the case, so you can still use it with your MagSafe chargers and accessories. So use the link below to get 23% off your order today. And now we're gonna test out Lightroom photo editing, and I'm gonna start by importing some photos from my 30th birthday party. We have 500 of them. I'm gonna drag and drop it here. It's gonna select all these photos, and then we are going to hit import and start our timer. So as far as the initial previews, it looks like the new M2 Pro is grabbing those faster. But with that, look at this, we're at 96 degrees Celsius already with the fans on compared to 78 with the fans on the older one. Now that's gonna be interesting to test with our performance benchmarks. So it looks like once it finished fetching previews, it was done importing. I'm not sure if it's just the preview file that's using, but the new M2 with the slower SSDs did that faster. It took 58 seconds compared to 1 minute and 13. That is 32% faster, which is great. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and export 499 photos that we have here. Now, keep in mind, we have nothing else open. We don't have any web browsing tabs, any other applications that you would typically have open in the background, so we're gonna get a baseline. We hit export, start our timer, and we are off. Now, right away, we could see that we're using about 60% of the CPU and about 94% of the GPU on the M1 Pro. And here we're at 96% graphics, so they're fairly close. But of course, with the M2 Pro, we have 2 extra efficiency cores, and all of those cores are faster, more powerful, and we have 3 extra graphics cores that are also clocked higher. Now this does of course read from the SSDs and it writes to it as well, but if we take a look at it, there's really not that much data that is being pulled. Most of the load is on the other part. Now like I said, this is our baseline, so once we get some other things open, we'll see if the slower SSDs slow us down once we get into swap. Now of course, we are testing out the SSDs, but if we look at the data that's being transferred, it is very little, so most of it's loaded on the CPU, but this is our baseline. And looking at the swap right here, both systems are writing to the SSD because we don't have enough RAM. Both of these have 16. So here we're using 5.6 gigs of SSD for RAM or as RAM. Here we're actually using more, 6.2. So even with 16 gigs and nothing else open at all on the system, we are using those SSDs as swap. All right, we're done. The M1 Pro 16-inch took 5 minutes and 28 seconds compared to 4 minutes and 49 seconds for the M2 Pro. That gives us a difference of 13.5% in favor of the M2 Pro, but the weird thing is the CPU is 20% faster supposedly, and the graphics 30% faster. So we would expect a 25 to 30% increase, but we're only at 13. And of course we have nothing else open. And when I'm using a system, I usually have between 10 and 20, sometimes 30 tabs, but Figma has even more. I have multiple applications open. I never have just one thing. So now we're gonna go ahead and open up some other things in the background, just like everybody else would, especially professionals. So now I have 15 tabs opened up in Google Chrome. I have about 30 on my personal Mac right now. We go even higher, but we wanted to keep it simple. And these are just some basic web browsing tabs. I have some websites that I like looking at and checking out. We have IGN here, for example, a good amount of media. And then I have YouTube Analytics, which I always have open, regular YouTube, and something playing in the background for music, just, you know, audio podcasts, all that kind of stuff. I have my Google Drive and some email opened as well, which is always open. So now let's go ahead and open up Lightroom once again. Bam, everything loaded up exactly the same, which is great. And let's hit export and see if there's gonna be any differences with just some web browsing tabs open, no other applications. And this time around, we're using 10.5 gigs of swap on the M1 and 9.9, now 10 on the M2. So you guys could see even 16 gigs of RAM is not really enough on a system like this. We would wish if Apple would just raise the bases, get rid of the 8s, go up to 16s, and just give us more, because both these systems definitely need to get into that. Now I don't know about you guys, but I never sit around waiting for renders to happen. I always go do some web browsing, answer some emails. So let's take a look what the responsiveness is like with both systems that have the same specs. So here we can switch between a few different tabs. Let's go to IGN. And as you guys can see, it looks like the M2 system, oh, not that time. That time the M1 was faster. So far it's trading blows. Sometimes they're the same, like that one. Oh, right there, you guys saw the M2 slowed down because it has to read that from the SSD. A little bit slower there. How about we go to our Google Drive? Right there, the M1 read that instantly. This one, you could tell there was a delay opening it back up. Getting back into Lightroom, it's hard to tell which one's winning. They're fairly close. And some people ask, well, why don't you have web browsing tabs open in all of your tests? Well, some people say to do it, some people say not to do it. So usually we test one application, but of course, most people are multitasking and doing different things. And if you want to see how 16 gigs compares to 32 with these systems, make sure you guys are subscribed, because we will be making a video like that. Oh my goodness, guys. This is not the best. Well, let's wait for this to finish and I'll give you guys the times. So the brand new M2 Pro $2,500 machine took 7 minutes and 57 seconds, and the old M1 Pro took 6 minutes and 47 seconds. That means that with those 15 tabs open and exporting his 499 images and doing some multitasking, it took way longer. And now, instead of the M2 Pro being 13% faster, the M1 Pro is 17% faster once we're multitasking with that open. So it flipped by a lot. And both of these are the base 16-inch, so we have 512, 16 gigs of RAM. The M2 has better CPU and GPU performance, but the M1 won, which means yes, the SSD performance was impacting and is impacting the M2 machine. And Vadim, I thought that 15 tabs wouldn't be enough.
It's not bad, man.
We use a lot more.
I have more than 15 all the time.
And we always have multiple programs open, not just Lightroom. So that is crazy. And that just tells us, if you're doing stuff like this, you're multitasking, you definitely want to go up to 1 terabyte SSD to get the same performance as we had a year and a half, 2 years ago. Or you should also be getting 32 gigs of RAM. So I'm excited for that comparison as well, because I think this time around with the M2 Pros, 32 gigs is gonna make a bigger difference than it did before. But now let's go ahead and test something else. And now we're gonna test professional web design software Figma. And this test was provided by our partner 500 Designs. which does incredible designs. First thing I'm gonna do is just zoom in here, and this is a web-based application. It's a very typical website, so pretty smooth there. Let's see what the M2 Pro does. Also nice and smooth. Let's see how long it takes to reload. We got a little bit of stuttering there. Didn't take much to load that up. By the time I zoomed in, the quality was good. Let's check this one. Actually a little bit worse there. I did zoom in more so. And now I selected 12 web pages here, and we are gonna run an export. So let's get started. So the M1 Pro took 1 minute and 58 seconds to export. Let's test out the M2 Pro. And it looks like it took 1 minute and 37 seconds compared to 1 minute 58, which is actually the same results that we got on the 14-inch binned models. So it looks like the CPU doesn't really impact it that much, having the extra cores or graphics cores, or even having stuff loaded in the RAM. It's not making a difference, which is great for web designers. Now, one interesting thing is that the M1 Pro is using 10.4 gigabytes of the SSD as RAM for swap, whereas the M2 Pro is consistently clearing stuff out faster and using less. So I don't know if it's more efficient, if it just clears stuff out in general, and that could be helping stuff out. So let's go back to Chrome and let's see if we have any performance differences, any responsiveness differences. So far, everything looks to be identical. Now, we don't have anything in the background. Right there, we just saw that the M1 Pro had to reload that and definitely took longer. So the memory could be more efficient with the new M2 Pro chips. Going to Google Drive, right there, our M1 system had to reload that. We're super fast with the M2, even though, and actually maybe it does make sense why it's faster. Maybe that is here in the swap, where here it cleared out other stuff to make room for it. Either way, the M2 Pro is doing better. And now for you video editors, let's see if we have a difference when we are multitasking and we're video editing. Now, this is standard compressed footage, very, very easy to play back, and I think it's actually preset to better performance, not full quality like we have on this one, but neither one of them should have any issues. I'm actually gonna go ahead and press this L key to play back faster, which is what we do sometimes when we're editing. And here, if we take a look, we're using 70% of the GPU, 68 now, compared to 48 on this one, because it does have 3 more graphics cores, and they're more, they have more performance with higher clock speeds in general. And now I'm gonna go ahead and export this 5-minute project. Once again, very easy, but most editors work with footage like this. Looks like they are almost done, and they're running practically the same. Bam, they finished the same exact time, 2 minutes and 23 seconds, which is maybe 1 to 2 seconds slower than if we only had Final Cut open. So here we're limited by the encoders. That's the slowest part, which is why the systems were not being maxed out. So to make it a little bit tougher, here we have Canon C200 footage, and this is just a 1-minute project with some regular effects if you're grading the footage, and we're gonna go ahead and export this as well, and we'll see if this is limited by the encoders or just by the performance of the systems, which of course, with the M2 series, we have a lot more CPU and GPU performance. We're getting close to being done here, and both of these systems fly through this compared to my $15,000 Mac Pro, and we got a difference of 2 seconds, 1 minute and 7 compared to 1 minute and 9. So the M2 Pro was quicker, but that's just about 2% quicker or so, not 20 to 30% quicker with the extra performance. So what I'm gonna do now is close everything else in the background, close the web browsing tabs, and we'll run this again. So we have everything closed. Let's hit save to start exporting and see if we have any differences in performance. All right, that is done, and both systems were 1 second faster, 1 minute and 6 seconds and 1 minute and 8. And now, that just shows us that unless you're doing something that's very RAM intensive, like we saw in Lightroom, or other applications that you might be using that are RAM intensive, or for example, if you use Parallels or other virtualization, which eats up a lot of RAM, well then, for most tasks, you're not gonna see a big difference. But if you're doing a lot of Photoshop with tons of layers, other photo processing or other apps, you can definitely see it, even with just 15 tabs open. So we would say if you know you're using a lot of RAM, make sure that you do get from 512 up to a 1 terabyte, then you get the extra storage, or you just upgrade to 32 gigs of RAM, which will keep a lot of that out from using your SSD. And that way you'll get a benefit. So if you guys want to see 16 gigs of RAM compared to 32, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Make sure you guys comment on this video and the previous ones and the upcoming ones for our giveaway, which we're announcing on February 1st. Thank you guys for watching. Let us know your thoughts. Are you okay with this SSD downgrade? We'll see you guys in the next one.